President.
Senator from Oklahoma.
Mr. President, I'd like to just take a moment, just be able to recap the day and some of the things that I've heard. I've been on the floor quite a bit today and heard a lot of the debate. And as I kind of process through some of the debate, here's what I've heard. And we'll see if some of my colleagues agree with this and in the direction. I've heard a lot of conversation on the details of the agreement and trying to walk through the actual process. What does the text say? But there seems to be two very different opinions about this. So let me just share what I'm hearing back. There are key things that Iran needs to be able to complete a nuclear weapon. And it doesn't seem that this agreement stops them in the process. And that seems to have been the goal of this agreement, was to stop them from acquiring a nuclear weapon. What does Iran need? Well, they need time. This agreement gives them time, lays out a schedule, backs up, slows down the process of inspections. It allows them time to be able to finish their research. It allows them money. It's a key aspect that they need, not only for their funding of terrorism, but actually to be able to complete the technological research that they have to have in those facilities. Billions of dollars are released to Iran almost immediately in this agreement for them to be able to complete their research. It allows them ballistic missile capability, which is shocking to a lot of people that I've talked to in my state. They assume that this deal actually slows down their ballistic missile research and capability. It actually doesn't. It actually paves the path to them and gives them permission to continue their ballistic missile research. It allows them to be able to continue towards highly enriched uranium. Again, a lot of people that I've talked to have been surprised at that, because the assumption was, from so many times to hear from the president, they shouldn't be allowed to have uranium. They shouldn't be allowed to do that. That was the conversation 5 years ago, but now it's how much uranium can they enrich and what does that look like? Now, there has been some conversation today by individuals that have said, well, this will decrease the number of centrifuges that they have. That is entirely correct. It does decrease the number of centrifuges, but let me give the illustration. If your company had 20 computers that were built in 1995, and you were told you could replace those 20 computers from 1995 with 3 computers with this year, would you take that deal? I bet you would. That's the deal that we're giving to Iran. We're telling them their oldest centrifuges, their oldest, originally built, they're going to have to get rid of about 2/3 of those, though they can still keep 5,000 of even their oldest centrifuges. But they can install 1,000 of their newest technology centrifuges and keep those going. Well, I would certainly think that's a deal they would take, and by the way, they are taking, and they're asking us to take it as well. They have time. They have money, they have ballistic missile research, they have highly enriched uranium and the permission to be able to continue their work on their most advanced centrifuges, and they have additional defensive capabilities. They're allowed to continue to stockpile conventional weapons under this agreement and to be able to even add things like surface-to-air defense capabilities to be able to defend their military sites. So you tell me, does Iran have what it needs to be able to complete a nuclear weapon under this deal? Time, money, ballistic missiles, ability to be able to complete their research, advanced centrifuges, and defensive weaponry to be able to put around their facilities? Yes. Here's some things that we don't know, that we really can't discuss, that we would appreciate being able to discuss today. The side deals. We have the Bain documents that have come in. In fact, I posted those on my website. Many others have done the same. We want Americans to be able to read those things, because most Americans, when they read them, are stunned with what this agreement says. But what we can't get is the side deal. Now, again, I've heard over and over from the president, we're not going to trust Iran, we're going to verify. We don't trust, we're going to verify. Literally with the side agreements, people keep hearing, what is the side agreement? What is the side agreement? Here's what the side agreement is. The main agreement gives broad parameters. For instance, it will say, we will have inspections. Well, that's great. How are the inspections to be done? Well, that's in the side agreement. So we're agreeing that, yes, there'll be inspections. When we ask the question, how are inspections to be done, we're told we can't read that document. That's a separate agreement between the UN and Iran. Literally, I cannot verify how we're going to verify. I'm being told trust and verify. I can't verify how we're verifying. That seems absurd to me, and it's hard for me to imagine anyone in this body would say, yes, I'd sign off on something I've never read, I've never seen. In fact, the people in the administration have said they have never read, they have never seen. Yet we're being asked to sign off on it and to give our authorization to say, yes, we would support that. I have a problem with that. And it's one of many reasons why I cannot support this deal. Now, what I've heard over and over again by individuals that do support this deal today, I've heard this is the deal, it's in front of us, the president's agreed to us, and it'll look bad if we don't agree to it. You know what? My problem is not looking bad. My problem is a nuclear-armed Iran. That's the problem. And at the end of the day, this is not about saving face as America. This is about protecting United States interests, United States citizens, and those of our friends in the Gulf. This is not about saving face for the president. I've heard over and over again, it would be too hard to get the coalition back together to be able to renegotiate this. May I remind you, the reason that we have this coalition together is because the crippling sanctions are one thing. You cannot do business with America and with Iran. That's the deal. If we continue the sanctions in place, it's not about getting the band back together. It's about leaving those sanctions in place. And if you want to do business with the United States, you also have to agree to not do business with Iran. It's not about getting everyone back together. Leave them in place. Let's finish renegotiating it. I've heard over and over again, it's either war or it's this. Quite frankly, I think this deal in its place takes us closer to a conventional war. Why? Because it allows Iran to begin to almost immediately begin stockpiling conventional weapons. Those in the Gulf region are so concerned about that we're promising them they can get more weapons and buy more advanced weapons from us. How does a conventional arms race in the Middle East take us farther from war? Under this agreement, it destabilizes. I've heard over and over again today, what's our message to the world when the rest of the world has signed off on this and yet we say no? Well, here's our message to the world. Iran is screaming death to America, not death to other countries, except for Israel, which they're chanting death to Israel. Israel is also standing up and saying, this is a terrible deal for our nation and for the stability of the world. It's not about our message to the world. It's about standing up and being the world's superpower. That's who we are. Let's take responsibility for our position in the world and to be able to finish well what we're doing. I've also heard multiple times today, well, let's sign off on this deal and then we'll have tougher diplomacy in the future. I have to tell you, every time I've heard that, I've smiled and thought, are you kidding me? What do you mean we'll sign off on this deal, then we'll do tougher diplomacy in the future? With what leverage? This is our leverage. The sanctions are the leverage. We're not going to get tougher in the future. This is the toughest moment. It gets softer from here. Iran is still the single largest sponsor of terrorism in the world. They've made no change in their actions against Yemen and leading the coup in Yemen. They've made no change in their actions of propping up Assad in Syria. We're giving this away if we sign on to this agreement. This deal is built on hope, not on facts and trust. And I know everyone in this body hopes to get a diplomatic solution. We cannot base an agreement with Iran on hope. If we cannot verify it, if we cannot see the documents, if there's been no change in behavior, I think we should assume we still have status quo Iran. Let's push back. Let's get the better deal. Let's not allow advanced centrifuges to stay in place. Let's not allow them to continue their ballistic missile testing. These are not hard issues to be able to finish. The deal is half cooked. Let's get it fully baked. And then let's finish the diplomatic solution, but not just hope that this works out in the days ahead. With that, I yield back.